You might have been working with sourdough for a long time, or you might have gotten a batch of sourdough starter and not know what to do with it. Either way, what we hope to show you today is a method that you might not have had exposure to. We got a book and tried out some new techniques. The book is Crust by Richard Bertinet. He has different techniques of kneading dough, of baking dough, of proofing dough that you might not be familiar with. So we hope you get a lot out of it. Before you get started, some of the things you may want to think about are equipment. So here I have a peel, a baking peel, which you can buy in some restaurant or kitchen supply stores. What you can do is put the formed dough on it with a layer of semolina on the bottom, the dough on top, and then put it into the oven. What we have up above is a baking stone, also known as a pizza stone. Next best to it is a stainless steel tray, which we'll put the loaves on. You'll definitely need a large mixing bowl, this large or even larger. You're going to have about 4 pounds of dough. These three things are going to be harder to find. This is called a Brotform or bread form. Curved, it's natural. You can just line it with flour and put the bread in to proof. These two things are scrapers. Each scraper has a curved side and a flat side. Both are very useful. The curved side for scraping dough from a bowl, the flat side for scraping dough off of your surface. This is a linen cloth. We went to a fabric supply store and bought about 1.5 yards of unbleached linen cloth. This is actually the natural color of it. We didn't even hem it. We actually just cut it up into pieces, laundered them, cut off the stray threads, and now it's ready to be used, either to cover dough that's rising, or if you do something like this, you can see that if you flour this really well, you can set dough in it to proof. Here we have a strong bread flour. This is different from all-purpose flour because it is higher in gluten and protein, and it makes it more elastic. This is spelt flour. This is salt. I like to use kosher salt. A pancake-like batter consistency sourdough batter. You can get sourdough from a lot of different sources. This is a New Zealand sourdough batter, and it's alive, it's kicking, and we're going to be adding it, and that's our source of yeast, a sourdough yeast instead of the standard bread variety. And if you don't have a sourdough starter to begin with, we'll be giving you some resources on how to get it. And you might notice that there are a couple things that you normally put in bread that are missing. There aren't any eggs, and there isn't any oil or fat. 800 grams of flour, 90 grams spelt flour, which is an ancient kind of wheat grown in Mesopotamia thousands of years ago, and it has a nuttier flavor, so it certainly adds some character. I'm incorporating this just lightly. 20 grams of the salts. You'll have to have 400 grams of the sourdough starter, 550 milliliters of water. Adding the sourdough mixture here. We're going to be using our German plastic scrapers to just incorporate this somewhat, just generally. And as you can see, it's sticking together. This is, I think, the right time to gradually add water. Now you can see that it's pretty wet, very sticky. It's important that your bowl is big enough so that you can work freely with it. You'll want to incorporate it a little bit more, and don't be surprised if pieces of dough start flying off. Alright, so there it is, a sticky mess, much stickier than you would normally find. What I'm going to do here is turn this out, scraping the bowl as much as I can. You notice that there isn't any flour. It's really sticky. I'm scraping this out because I'm going to be putting the dough back in here once I've really worked with it for a while. And it's important that you don't have little pieces of dried out dough sticking to our big, nicely elastic, silky ball. So spend a little bit more time getting everything scraped off, and that'll be enough. Now, this is where we see something unusual. As opposed to the kind of kneading which you're probably used to, where you push the dough with the heel of your hand and turn it over and push and pummel it, this is pulling, not pushing. The technique that Richard Bertinet has is taking the dough up, pulling it up, slapping it down, pulling it forward, and then turning it back onto itself. Now that first one wasn't pretty, but as we continue to do that, you can see that one of the things that's happening is every time I turn it over, it gets mixed up. It doesn't stick too much, and it incorporates a bit more air into it. So we're just going to work with this for a couple minutes to show you the rhythm that you want as you work with